So I'm going to try vlogging today. I'm going to Hong Kong Blockchain Week. That's the biggest blockchain event of this month in Asia. And I want to show you guys what's happening because I find conference is one of the best ways to gauge if new players are coming in, if people are building, and if people are actually buying the stuff that people are building. So let me show you guys something cool. I got my little Osmo today to take out. We also got this thing. This is for audio recording, a lavalier mic. And then, well, that's where this camera goes. Nice, I got my professional tripod carrier here.
Just for Michael?
Yes,
for Michael.
Awesome, the best. How are you doing, man?
Doing well, man.
Yeah?
Excited to be here. The off the events have been pretty good,
yeah?
I would say, yeah.
All right, so checking out the event today. This is in Hall 3, the grand entrance to this summit. Now we see this should be all where all the show booths are. You know, it's pretty standard in every conference. Got more points. Hey, look, we got a friend here. Got a dinosaur friend. Apparently, they're still around. They're not extinct yet. Oh my god. So how do you find Hong Kong Blockchain Week so far? Is it, it's exciting, lots of new people, lots of old people, or just the same old people?
Well, I do see a lot of I do see a lot of familiar faces, which is never a bad thing. I think it's a good chance to catch up with people in the industry. It has been a little bit quieter than I thought, but at the same time, I thought the speakers were fantastic. The panel speakers that they have.
Right. So now it's just like, I think it's a very big contrast from during, like, right before the bull run, during the bull run, where like all the conferences, you just see lines like outside, you know, trying to get into the theater. But right now it's like, okay, more, people who are more informed. It's a very different crowd.
Yeah, it is, and that's, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. At least the way we see it, this is a time where we can really shine over the noise.
All right, so let's take you guys around the venue. So over there, that's a conference theater, and over here we have these stalls. So as you guys know, not that many people go and to these stalls. And hey guys, how's it going? And we have some prime real estate here that's not being used. It's pretty honest. I think that's an interesting thing. I mean, this is day 3, so it's like, how long can you maintain one of these conferences for, right? Blockchain Week is a long time. And I think what we're seeing right now is that we're starting to realize that we don't need as many conferences. At the end of the day, probably like 1 or 2 a year is enough, because we're reaching a point where there's not as many new players coming in. So we were talking, about how 2017 was completely different. It was a conference every week almost, right? Because there's so many different new players coming in, and everyone wants to chat, talk, lines outside of meeting rooms. Right now, it's a very, very different time where it's kind of like, okay, it's the same group of people meeting up again to kind of catch up, see what the new developments are, what kind of new deals. And even now, I think in terms of deals, it's changed a lot, because you don't really hear new hot ICOs being prepared. You don't even hear STOs. Right now you're at a period where like, okay, how do we build products properly? And as unsexy as that sounds, it's also really important, because at the end of the day, if we don't have new products, that's not gonna work. So yeah, there we go. That's pretty much the walk around the venue. So this it's not the biggest conference ever, but I think it's enough to get important people here to talk about some stuff. All right, so we're here with Jonathan from D-Token. So how do you find Hong Kong Blockchain Week so far?
Yeah, so I think not bad. There's definitely some energy left, but it's day 3 right now, and as you can see, it's thinning out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, this is prime real estate, but I think they offered it to me for like $10.
No. I I mean, to be fair, I think it is day 3, so it's a little bit harder. And I mean, even though there are people here, I think it's just such a big difference compared to like 2017. Those markets, like, man, this is like full. Like, like this is $10.
Exactly. I mean, 2017, I think there would be like lines outside waiting. I think in here today, I think it's actually a difference because people are inside rather than outside. I think normally people don't listen to talks, but here like they actually go inside and listen to talks.
Yeah, I think now people are actually thinking what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. They're playing the equity game, not the ICO game as much anymore, and I think that requires a lot of education.
Right.
There are still some decent people here. I saw like the co-founder of Wikipedia show up. So,
nice.
So definitely long-term people for sure.
So basically, people who are kind of have reputation know what they're doing, and then they're like, okay, now that the dust is settling, I can actually see builders now.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is still theory for sure. Like, for example, the co-founder of Wikipedia, all about decentralization and decentralized knowledge and whatnot. So I think the business models are still yet to be seen, but definitely, as you can imagine, the people that are here now are people who are a lot more motivated than just an everyday person.
Right. So hopefully we'll see each other next conference. I saw one dinosaur running around somewhere. Hopefully he won't go extinct next time.
That's what, yeah. So everyone, please show up. Let's keep the dinosaurs alive. They've already died once before.
So we gotta do it. We gotta make sure they're alive next time, man.
Yeah. Cheers.
Okay.
Oh, nice. We got a mic now. Thanks, man.
The next panel
Okay, perfect. You can go up.
is how to be an informed blockchain subscriber. As you know, YouTube is a very interesting channel for a lot of us.
Are you ready, Clement?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
What are we gonna talk about?
We're going to talk about how to be an informed subscriber, blockchain subscriber.
The cryptocurrency market sees, someday, different regulators, different approaches to Singapore. Obviously, MAS has, really forefront in terms
Hey, we
of
got this guy here, so.
security tokens, the difference of
More
security
cameras.
tokens. This is a really
he just left.
excitement
Alright.
we have right here.
We're not
Okay,
interested enough.
now it's time for bringing up our moderator and panelists for be an informed blockchain subscriber. We have moderator Clement Ip, founder of Genesis Block. The speakers Angie Lau, founder and CEO of Forecast News, and Michael Gu, founder of Boxmining,
right.
and Nicholas Martin, founder of DataDash. Welcome our moderator and panelists.
Thank you, Andrew, for the introduction, and But I have to say that it's too easy to look at this world in terms of good and bad. I mean, that's a classic fairy tale that we learn as kids. There's good guys and bad guys, but in the real world, it's a field of gray. And what we see even in financial markets, and a lot of reasons why people are into Bitcoin, was that they started realizing that this regulation doesn't work. I mean, if you look at, I'll be talking about on my channel, if you just even search JP Morgan fine, just do that on your Google browser, and you'll see, not just 1 or 2 times they were fined with penalties. And this isn't even really reported in mainstream media that much anymore, but they were fined, they were found guilty of money laundering, exactly what, they're supposed to not do.
So you said that people started asking you questions. Okay, so what questions did they start asking you?
Well, they're asking if you guys are going to invest in STOs, do crypto funds still invest, stuff like that. Yeah.
So what do you think is going to be the future? STOs, or do you think it's going to be big? Are you personally interested in STOs, or do you think it's okay, you know what, it's not my cup of tea?
Yeah, I think STO in general is definitely an innovation in finance, definitely an innovation in form of how you distribute your equity or your stake. But you have to be very clear, which is if you're asking investors to invest in STO, you're realistically still asking for long-term investors here. They're still equity investors, but unfortunately, most of the ICO investors are short-term investors. They're what we call open-ended funds. And usually they have a very short lockup. We're talking about less than a year. And so if you're dealing with a lot of what we call illiquid asset, then their interest goes as automatic. Their interest is going to be much lower than what we call equity investors, and that needs to be very cleared out, right?
So it's all about time periods, time frames, and amount of kind of risk they want to take. So you think it's just a completely different product, and it's not really it's apples and oranges or apples and steaks.
I mean, in open-ended funds, there's something called side pockets, which I just mentioned to you before, and it's quite common in our industry. Basically, you have illiquid and liquid asset. When illiquid assets are not liquid assets yet, they put in the side pocket until they mature, and that's when investors are able to redeem. But like most ICOs, like there's a vesting period, and this vesting period could be a year or 2 years. As investors, you got to understand, okay, if my fund investors are going to redeem within 2 years, am I going to invest in something that's over 4 years illiquid, right?
Right. So what your time frame that you're saying for STOs is longer, like 4 years even, not just like, because ICOs, like if you look at Binance Launchpad recently, it's like you invest and you get it in like a week. What do you think about the Binance Launchpad actually?
I think it's great. I mean, from our perspective, we're shifting from more of a private market from last year more into secondary market. I think we're trying to look at more flexibility because, to be honest, like as investors, you can still make money, and like if you invest in Binance Launchpad, a lot of the products actually did pretty well, right? So you don't have to, you don't have to be so strict about looking at valuation like what we used to look at. I think the point is, as long as you know that there's liquidity pools and there's liquidity funds in there, then obviously there's a possibility where the token will go up, and that's where you can make money.
And you're moving, so you make a magazine and you covered a lot of controversial topics. So Tron was, Justin was one of your magazines. So, what's your experiences running a magazine, and how do you find it?
Well, so every time we release a magazine, the content we look for is any content that has an impact on the industry. So one big issue that people have is when sometimes we release controversial figures, like Justin Sun's controversial. We just released Craig Wright. And for Craig Wright especially, we got a lot of hate online where people are like, oh, I can't believe you guys give this guy a platform. I don't support this guy. What are you giving this guy a platform for? But I think an important thing about journalism and reporting and just media is you have to get all aspects of the industry, right? You can't just look at what's popular. Right? Much like what you do, right? You want to get real facts about what has an impact on the space. Like with Craig Wright, sure. People ask me all the time now after I talk to them, do you think he's Satoshi? I'm not going to answer that. You think you read our magazine or you read the news, judge for yourself, and that's not only for media, right? Just looking at what happened in 2017, that's the main problem. Just like what you said on the panel just now, people, what Angie Lau said, too much outsourcing of your own decision making outsourcing, right? You follow what people say, you see what's popular, and you go that direction. People can't do that anymore, especially today and in the near future too of crypto. You can't keep following other people's decisions of what you see as popular. Really judge for yourself what's right.
So hey guys, I'm here with Luke from CoinMarketCap. So you guys are doing a lot of events recently.
Yes, absolutely.
So why is that?
So I mean, we feel like there's great value in just coming to a new part of the world, aligning with the cryptocurrency ecosystem here, sharing perspectives and coming together, and that's what it's all about, right?
Right. And okay, so we're kind of like in a very different space now. So moving into 2019, I think we can see that the number of the people here are different, the space, the climate, the feeling is different. But we still rely on CoinMarketCap to get our data. So can we ask some questions about how it works? I mean, right now, I think 2 questions. So how do you guys decide what coins get on CoinMarketCap?
Sure. Yeah, so right now the listing requirements for a coin or a token are that there needs to be active markets on at least 2 exchanges that we support. The reason for this is because the price is a weighted average by volume. And so we like for the price to be an average and not just one single data point.
Right. Yeah. Okay, the other more important issue is like right now we see billions transacted for even Bitcoin, so say market volume. But the problem is like at least I noticed is that a lot of this volume is reported by exchanges that aren't even heard about. Like we don't even know. Right. So what do you guys do about fake volume? Do you think that this is a thing affecting the markets? Do you think this is something you do about it?
Yeah, so this is something we take very seriously, and we're thinking of ways to combat these tensions. I think what's interesting to note here is that some people, given our position, people think that it's our duty to kind of police the industry, right? And I encourage those people to think, about the entirely new subset of criticisms they would have if we were actively policing the industry and saying 30% of your volume is real. That's just crazy. So the way we're thinking about
30%, like 99% is fake, right?
Well, you know what I mean, but just imagine the criticisms if we were going around making extrapolated approximations about what's real and what's not. So that said, we take it very seriously, and the way we're thinking about handling these tensions is that bringing more metrics to use so that people can get more a sense of like the bigger picture, right? So like liquidity metrics, we can use order book data to kind of come up with a liquidity score, and then additionally cold and hot wallet storage balances of the exchange, right? So if you're looking at 800 million in turnover, maybe only 100 Bitcoins in the cold hot wallet storage balances, and then the liquidity score you can kind of get a better sense of what is actually going on instead of us kind of going in there and making some judgment calls, which is what we're trying to avoid.
So instead of exactly. So instead of saying, okay, this is fake, we're gonna cut that out. Right. What you're saying is, okay, we're gonna provide you with more tools for the future.
You're right, more tools to make better guided decisions about what is actually happening. Yes.
Right. Okay. So now this year, obviously you guys are walking around. How do you find Hong Kong Blockchain Week so far?
It's really cool. I've never been to Hong Kong before, so it's like always exciting to experience a new city, meet new people, experience a different culture. That's what I love so much about working in this industry is that I have the opportunity to come and meet so many great people. What I like so much about this industry beyond that is that, there's some competition, right? But at the end of the day, we're all in it together. And so I'm so happy to be here.
Right. And how do you get started? So you're like the number 2 employee of CoinMarketCap, basically the biggest co-founder or what not title you want to say. So how do you get started? What was your passion driving and going into this place?
Sure. So I had background in finance, corporate finance. I was working in private wealth management, and I was the guy on the floor, covering cryptocurrencies for my teams because, a couple of years ago, high net worth clients in San Francisco were asking, what is blockchain? What is Bitcoin? They needed someone there to kind of explain those things. And I took that upon myself to kind of be that analyst and cover those fields. Ethereum blew up, from 7 to 300, had a little success there. And I decided to go right into cryptocurrency, kind of like put finance behind me. And I was so captivated by, what the concept of decentralization could do to transform the world around me that I needed to just dive in. So I started leveraging my network, trying to reach out to people, see, who is working in the space that I could maybe collaborate with. I eventually got to my friend Brandon, asked him what he was up to, if he was still into Bitcoin. He said, hey, I'm running this website. It's called CoinMarketCap. I was like, have you heard of it? I said, of course I've heard of it. And he's like, yeah, traffic's, getting really crazy right now. I need some help. And so I dropped finance and I joined him. And it's been a great ride ever since, for sure.
Awesome. That's a great story of getting into the space. Okay, now that you're in CoinMarketCap, do you still actively trade coins? What are your favorite coins right now?
So, I can't speak to that, but I don't really.
I had to try, right?
I don't trade that much, to be honest with you. Buy Bitcoin. Yeah, buy Bitcoin for sure.
Have you ever tried the Lightning Network?
I haven't yet. No.
Okay. So are you interested? Do you think that's going to solve Bitcoin scaling issues?
I think that it's going to move a step in the right direction. I think Lightning. What excites me about it is like decentralized exchanges, right? So that's going to make them way more relevant, and that's what I think is could be really good for our space.
How about the conversations you have? Like, what sort of people do you think are here? Are they interested? Do they understand crypto? Are you getting a more informed audience?
Yeah, totally. You have a couple of investor kind of people and other people that's more into the fundamentals of blockchain. So the conversations is much higher level than in the bull run.
Right. And how about like interest in projects? Like, we talked before about resistance and how building a DEX works. What do you think is going to be the future here? Are people excited about decentralized exchanges? Is that what excites people? What's kind of the outlook right now?
Yeah, decentralization is still a very hot topic, and it's gonna be more and more. So yeah, totally.
Totally. Okay. So what do you think is the kind of the most important thing right now in crypto? Like, what do you think people should care about? What should people? What do you think is like the key message of 2019?
People are going back to the fundamentals of blockchain. They look at Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin what it is?
Right.
So you go back to the decentralization and all these fundamental things, and that's becoming more and more important right now. They want to have products that has a use case today, not something for 10 years in the future. So that's what I'm seeing.
Awesome. Okay, and then I think one of the key issues right now that we're kind of facing is fake volumes. Unfortunately, in centralized exchanges, they can actually submit orders that don't even go into the order book. Do you see that happening right now? Like, do you get active information that this is the case, or do you think this will solve itself in the future?
Yeah. So what I heard and all the research we have been seeing is that it's most likely true. So there's a lot of market makers that doesn't pay any transaction fee, that does wash trading on the centralized exchanges to get a better number, to get more users to the exchanges. So I believe that that's a true case.
So right now we're moving to a very different scene in crypto. Do you think that do you think we're at the bottom right now, or do you think we're far from that?
I still think we're kind of far from it. The only big difference in the crypto space that I see now is everyone stopped using the words ICO because they're toxic and has replaced them with the words STO because they're somehow better. In reality, it's exactly the same thing by a different acronym.
You have to wait 4 years, right? And it's more legal, more regulation minefield, so it's even worse.
Yeah. Calling yourself a security doesn't make it any better. So we'll see what happens. I still I'm sitting there and I'm still listening to people pitching their ideas and they think they're worth $50 million for some reason. I don't know why. And it's still a little ridiculous. And this concept of everything needs to be decentralized is also borderline ridiculous.
Right. Okay, so one thing that is kind of interesting about the markets is we've been exposing a lot of fake volume recently. Like pretty much all the exchanges on the top list of CoinMarketCap, they're pretty ridiculous. Even some reports came out to say 99% of like three out of the top 5 exchanges have 99% fake volume. What do you think about that? Like as a trader?
I don't. I always knew that we're dealing with an unregulated space. So you're going to have these issues. Fake volume is kind of irrelevant, right? Every exchange is faking volume to be more relevant than every other exchange to bring in new clients. So if everybody's volume is fake, then it's an even playing field again. What happened in China was the regulators showed up and did 2 things. 1, they shut down all the exchanges, and 2, they shut down all the ICOs. Why did that happen? Well, because when they took a look, it's like, well, if every exchange is going to be doing fake volume, we're going to shut you all down, call it illegal. If every single ICO is a Ponzi scheme, then we're going to shut you all down and they're all illegal, right? And this goes to my notion that I've been talking about for years. This space is not capable of policing itself. And when virtually everything is a fraud because everyone in the space is afraid to look at the neighbor next to them and accuse them of being fraudulent, everyone wants to be nice. So if everyone is nice and everyone is trying to scam each other, eventually the hammer is going to come down and your legitimate company is going to be left out in the cold.
Right, but the problem with the hammer is the hammer didn't work, right? We still have a lot of Chinese exchanges running around pretending to be international exchanges. So do you feel that regulation can help the space, or do you think it's going to be meaningless?
Regulation can help the space with even just from a standardization perspective. There's also a difference between regulation on what? Like Bitcoin can't be regulated. Let's get that very, very clear.
Bitcoin. We even have a conference called Unconfiscatable, right?
Bitcoin at the protocol level is unregulatable. What we are talking about is people that are either in charge of other people's money or people that are soliciting other people's money to do something with that money. I think those 2 elements are grossly under-regulated and they need to be a lot more regulated, maybe even more regulated than the way they are regulated currently in the traditional markets. Because what traditional markets can do is steal your money and pretend that, oh, I forgot my key or I got hacked, right? That doesn't work. So because you can actually steal Bitcoin, the regulation on managing other people's Bitcoin or soliciting for other people's Bitcoin needs to be even more regulated than the prior financial environment. When it comes to actually using Bitcoin, that's unregulatable, and regulation in that space will certainly harm the whole industry.
Okay, so coming to Bitcoin, have you used the Lightning Network? Are you actively using that, or do you stay away from it until it's ready?
So I've tested out the Lightning Network. I've made a transaction or 2. I don't actively use it because I have no need for it. All the transactions that I do in Bitcoin are slightly larger than a piece of sandwich. I almost never use Bitcoin for such tiny transactions. So I don't really have a need to use Lightning, but I'm sure it'll be awesome in the near future, and we will be using it for slightly larger and larger payments. But I think everything is moving great. I think the technology is going awesome. And more people should learn how to use it. And I'm working on another conference called Understanding Bitcoin that will teach people how to use Lightning, including myself, properly, teach people how to run their own nodes. But as far as me everyday use for Lightning, I personally don't have a need for it.